Welcome. This is the Sidereal Insights Astro update for January 14th, 2019. We're already in the new year. So with the broadcast with Sidereal Insights, every 2 weeks we explore the astrology of the current planetary transits across the heavens from a Western sidereal perspective. And so if you need to look up your sidereal sign placements, sometimes that's helpful to do because often on the broadcast I'll talk about particular degrees of particular signs, and you may want to have a look at your own chart to find out if you do have planets or points in those places. And if you need to do that, use the online calculator. There's one at �MystickPhysick.com/sidereal tools. I'm going to give you a link to that right now, just in case anyone needs that who follows the broadcast. And so really with the with this broadcast, the point is to help you kind of find proactive ways of putting the transits to work for you. So we want to consciously use the energy of the transiting planets, right? We want to affect our lives in a positive way. We want to respond to our transits rather than react to them. And so when you know what's coming up, you kind of can more easily investigate how you might use that or harness the potential of your whoa. That's not the link. Excuse me, I'm getting distracted because I see that there's copy in a comment. So I'm going to see. My link didn't paste. Let me hit undo real quick. There we go. So when I tried to copy that link, apparently I changed around the text on my notes. It's a good thing I never entered that. There's the link if you need to look up your sidereal sign placements. Sorry about that. All right, and now my notes are back together. Thank God for Control-Z, right? So, but that's the idea. We want to be able to respond to our transits rather than react to them. You like ride the energy and use it to your advantage because it's going to happen anyway, right? But please like and share the broadcast. Tag a friend if you know someone who might be interested in following what we're going to be talking about here today. You can also follow Mystick Physick Astrology on Facebook, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you never miss a broadcast. So what's up for today? Let's recap a little bit some of what the current transits are. All the planets right now in the solar system have resumed direct motion, and they will be in direct motion through March 5th. So you have this nice little window to capitalize on that for any major projects you want to begin this year. You can use the new moons in that window of time to make your starts. And then the full moons during those time frames can potentially be good times to launch things that you've been working on that you're ready just to kind of shove out into the world and, you know, kick out of the nest, as it were. So March 5th, keep it an eye on that date. If you have the Ultimate Astrological Planner, you'll notice that's when Mercury happens to station retrograde for the very first time this year, which means going into February. So something that we did not talk about in the January horoscopes, but we will in the February horoscopes. Going into February, we're going to be entering the shadow of that retrograde. And so there's some Mercury retrograde preparation we're going to want to take for that. But we'll talk about that later on. The sun will be moving into Capricorn here in just a couple of days, tomorrow on the 15th. So with the sun in Capricorn, this is an opportune time to put your energy into your biggest ambitions for the coming year. And so you'll have a window through about February 13th to really take advantage of that. And I would say especially at that first new moon early in February, be a fantastic time to potentially make a start depending on your natal chart and depending on transits around that time. But that's our next new moon opportunity for sun in Capricorn, Mars has been in Pisces. He went into Pisces on the 24th of December, I believe. That's a 6-week-long transit. He's going to be there until early February. And so what we talked about in the last broadcast is that this is a good time to take some time to withdraw, relax, pull away from the bustle and stress of the world at large, and give yourself the opportunity for a little bit of solitude, a little bit of contemplation. Those activities can be beneficial right now. Spiritual pursuits can be beneficial right now. Solo activities, spiritual exploration, self-care, those are things that you can focus on quite successfully through early February. And that's really an opportunity to kind of collect your thoughts and decide how you might like to move forward into the year, right? Where we have our February new moon coming up to make an initiation. You can withdraw and do some contemplation and put a plan together for moving forward at that February new moon. This is also a good time to be taking action on other plans, especially if you already made an initiation shortly after the January new moon, which was our first big opportunity of this window of direct motion. So you can also be moving forward on that front right now, especially if that's a solo project or something private or very personal to you. Okay. But as you're making plans for the coming year, the main thing is be strategic about what's truly important to you. We've got Mercury in Sagittarius right now just for a few more days. He'll move into Capricorn on the 20th, joining the sun there. So we have a little bit more time to capitalize on the window supportive of writing, publishing, broadcasting activities, literary activities. If you're in travel or communication fields, you still have a week left of this transit to use it. Anything that broadens the mind, you'll still have one more week left for that activity to be supported by Mercury before he moves on to Capricorn. But remember, he's in his fall in Sagittarius, so it's not always the strongest placement to have, even though travel and communication can be supported. You want to be very careful to keep an eye on the details, and you want to be careful about what you share, because news can travel far and can travel very quickly when Mercury's in Sagittarius. He's also still out of bounds just for a few more days. So if you can be patient with other people and those around you, and be patient with yourself, around the tendency to misconstrue words or blow things out of proportion when Mercury's out of bounds. That's just a few more days of that influence. So hold tight, it's almost over, and then that'll start to normalize. Mercury, with his move into Capricorn, that's going to happen on the 21st, just as we have Venus and Neptune in square to each other. This tends to focus the mind, the thinking, the thoughts around obligations, around commitments, around ambitions, around responsibilities. But with that Venus-Neptune square, we might be tempted to allow ourselves to escape from those responsibilities and commitments. And I wouldn't recommend doing that. That's really only going to cause unpleasantness and discomfort later, because with Saturn involved as the ruler of Capricorn, there's always consequences when Saturn is involved. So be aware of the risk of that under the Venus-Neptune square, and just try to be diligent about what you know you need to get done. Venus and Scorpio. Venus is going to be moving into Scorpio before the end of January. She moved into Scorpio on the 2nd, so she's been there most of this month. We talked about in the last broadcast that wealth and influence building activities can benefit from this transit. So like I said, you have a few more weeks left of this energy to kind of take advantage of that transit before she moves on to Sagittarius. So near month's end, Venus will move on to Sagittarius, so she'll be there for about a 3-week long period. And that's really more focused on the big picture, I guess. We'll talk about that more come early February when we have our next broadcast. But new ideas, foreign cultures and values, artistic exploration, those can all bring outsized benefits coming in February. But like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit closer to when that transit's going to be active. Also coming up on the 21st, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer. So stay tuned for that. You'll want to join me for the broadcast. I'll give you the time and the place later on at the end of the broadcast for the upcoming full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer releasing practice that we'll be holding. But the January 21st full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer, it ends a cycle of eclipses that began about 2 years ago in February 2016. And so for readers who've been affected by this series, as we've talked about it over those last 2 years, you'll find in the coming weeks and potentially the coming 2 months that the changes which have been brought on by eclipse events during the previous 2 years leading up till now are going to be entering their final stages. And so you'll be entering a time frame where you'll finally really kind of be able to adjust to your new or different circumstances or life or whatever it is, the new place where you find yourself. So just know that what you've been going through, this transition, and it's probably been a big one, will begin kind of winding down and giving you an opportunity to kind of settle in to this new place, wherever you find yourself. Okay? So keep that in mind as we move through the coming weeks. And we also, on the 22nd, so just the day after that new moon, put a pin in this day, kind of a nice little day. January 22nd, we have Venus and Jupiter conjoining. And that could be kind of a nice little day. They're going to get kind of a blast of energy from Mars on that day. So do something fun, do what you want to do, enjoy the day, enjoy the outcome. And have a look at that conjunction in your own chart and see where it might land. Let me see. I didn't grab the degree when I sat down to do the broadcast, but I've got my planner right here. So let's look up what degree and what sign that's happening at. It's going to be in Scorpio where? 22nd. Oh, I don't have the degree in here. It's going to be in Scorpio. It's going to be in Scorpio. I don't have the, oh, I do have the, I might have the degree handy. Hold on. I got my notes from Writing Horoscopes. Here we go. No, that's February. Sorry. January I got put away already. I will look that up. And I'll put a note in the comments as to what degree that's happening at. So you can check your chart. Sorry, I didn't grab that beforehand. So eclipses, as I was saying, this ends a 2-year cycle. And so for those of you who may need, we've talked about this before, I want to say middle of last year is when we first had this conversation. This is a link to a video I did talking about things you need to know about eclipse season to help you navigate it more easily and more successfully. So if you need a refresher or if you're new to understanding eclipses, have a watch of that video because it'll give you kind of an idea of what to expect and how you can prepare. Okay, and so now I have my notes back. I got that posted in there. Also, read up on the January overview and short reports. If you haven't read those already, you may want to go back and reread what I wrote for your sidereal sun sign and your sidereal rising sign for the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer, just to kind of give yourself a refresher. But then also join us in the Sidereal Insights Astrology community on the 20th at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 2:30 a.m. if you're in the UK, or 1:30 p.m. the next day if you're in Australia on Eastern Daylight Time on the 20th. That would be on the 21st. But join me for that. And if you have the opportunity, like and share the broadcast. Like I said, tag a friend if you know someone who would be interested in joining us or joining us for the full moon in Cancer releasing practice that we're going to be doing on the 20th. And also, if you haven't ordered your 2019 Ultimate Astrological Planner, now's a good time to do so. You can visit the website at mystickphysick.com/2019. I've added some new features, I guess, some new choices just in the last couple of weeks that may be new for some of you. You can now have it personalized. So if you would rather the planner have your own personal transits and your own personal best days for business and love and luck, you can upgrade your planner and have it personalized. You'll have to give me your birth information, of course, but I'll personalize it for you. So it's not just transit to transit aspects, it'll be transit to your natal aspects. And that will kind of increase, I think, the effectiveness of your planning. If you want to make that upgrade, you can do that now. I think, is that it? That might be it. I thought there was one more. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. So we rolled out, in fall of last year, we rolled out the academic planner. as a new option. And of course, it is still available on the website, but I want to encourage you to consider getting the yearly one, because the academic one, of course, started last August, so it's already 5 months into it. So you're better off getting the yearly one if you're buying your planner now, just so you know. Okay, that's the big difference between the two. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you again next time. See you soon.